Hello and welcome to Soul Chats with Teri and Tatjana. We are spiritual mediums and we are here to talk about the different topics of spirituality, soul work, psychic mediumship, and anything in the area of invisible world, as we call the world behind the veil. So we are here to lift the veil for you and uncover some topics that are not that comfortable to talk about. You know, sometimes it's difficult to talk about spirituality or your experiences, paranormal experiences with other people, because you might think, oh, well, they think I'm crazy. Is it real what I'm seeing or experiencing? So that's why we are here to make it easier and really to talk about it freely and without any shame.
So let us be the crazy ones who talk about these things that you might not want to talk about because, you might be in a family or even in an area where you live, where you cannot talk about mediumship or death or grieving or anything that is related to the invisible world. And Teri and I will be talking about certain things that we think would be interesting for our audience to listen to. And it's actually topics that we have talked about in our personal kind of like exchanges that we had, and we thought it would be interesting for people to listen into that. And we are both sitting in different parts of the world. Internet and our today's technology makes it possible that we can connect all over the world with fabulous pictures and fabulous sound. And Teri is coming from the Czech Republic and speaks also Czech. I know that she receives her clients in her shop, in her boutique that she freshly opened. And I will let her speak about it because I'm not 100% sure where that actually is in the Czech Republic.
Yes, Tatjana, that's right. I am located in a beautiful mountain area, which you might not be familiar with if you are not from Czech Republic. If you are Czech and happen to watch this, feel free to visit my store in Vrchlabí near beautiful Krkonoše mountains. And you, Tatjana, I know that you are located in beautiful Switzerland, which also has beautiful mountains and also the lake. And you are near the lake, right?
That's correct. I'm close to the lake, Lac Léman in Geneva. So you can have a session with me either in person in Geneva or online, and I can do the sessions in English, in French, in German, or even in Swiss German. Yes.
Wow, that's a great choice. So many people have chance to work with you.
Exactly. So you can give us a call, check us out on our website, soulmystics.me, and you can book the session from there directly with either one of us.
Exactly. And we would love you to be part of our soul chats. So feel free if you have any topic, any issue, any experience that you would like to share with us or questions that you would like to ask, just submit them and we will talk about them in the next soul chats.
So yes, we will be talking about different topics about the invisible world, about psychic experiences, mediumship, talking to dead people, right? Which is mediumship, and all these things that are, as Teri mentioned, maybe a bit uncomfortable because you might live in an area where people are not very open to these experiences. And I know from my share, for myself, there are people around that if you mentioned anything like that, they would look at you as if you have swallowed an elephant as a whole. So yes, so it is not easy to talk about these things. And so today, how about we talk about, when you lose somebody, how does that affect the person, the grieving person, but also the people surrounding them?
Yes, because grief, we can look at it from different points of view. Usually, the most common way is, of course, a person who loses someone is affected by it the most, right? but as well then the people around them, right? Friends, family. And it's very difficult for them very often how to approach the grieving person, what to say, you know, the words, they seem not enough. But then there is the third dimension to it, and it's this different dimension. It's the person actually who has passed to the spirit world, and they continue to live there, right? It's just they are leaving their physical body. And of course, as we are spiritual mediums, we have the direct experience of communicating with those people. And it is very interesting also to look at the grieving from this point of view, because not all the time people die in, let's say, ideal way, which means being surrounded by family, having cleared all the issues or anything that was hanging in the air.
That's right. I experienced myself a loved one who died suddenly in an accident, and not being able to say goodbye is probably, from my perspective, the hardest way of losing somebody. Also, not having the opportunity to set things straight. Maybe you have been mad at somebody, maybe you couldn't visit them while they were at the end of their lives. Maybe there were issues that were just in the open, like Teri said, there was no closure. And I find that is really, really difficult. And this is what comes up actually in mediumship. I know as a fact that people who have crossed over, they might also have a little bit of grieving to do, because although it is great to be in the spirit world, they also have, you know, their life that they leave behind, and they might also need healing and closure from the medium. And this is really, the medium is not only there for the sitter to help them to overcome something, but also for the spirit world to convey something that they were not able to say while they were alive, or to set things straight.
Yeah, so it's very healing actually, and this is the aspect of mediumship. It's the healing aspect that sometimes maybe is overseen, or people don't realize this effect, because sometimes people want to connect to their loved ones out of pure curiosity, and there is nothing wrong about this, but the real effect is really the healing effect for both the worlds.
Exactly. And the interesting part is actually that the spirit world seeks out the medium that is best for them, meaning best for them and for the person in the spirit world as for the sitter. So, for example, I have certain experiences that lead people to me. And because I had those experiences, the spirit world feels comfortable with me. And because I have that understanding of those experiences, they will be able to communicate much more easier to me than, let's say, to somebody who didn't have those experiences. So mediums might have experienced themselves a loss of a child, maybe a suicide, or any other, I would say, deaths in their family that has affected them. And the spirit world feels more attracted to them because of that. And there is, you know, we are all different, and they will prepare the reading for the sitter and guide them to the right person.
And this is interesting what you are saying, Tatjana, because many mediums actually came to develop their mediumship because they lost someone, as it was in your case, right, Tatjana? I know you were a medium from very early childhood. You could see spirits, you could communicate, but it wasn't until the death of your loved one till you really start developing the mediumship. Is that correct?
That's true. I wouldn't have called myself really a medium before that, because a medium, really, if we want to define what a medium really is, we're the middleman between the spirit world and the living people. And before that loved one passed, you know, I just got not even messages, I just got a perception of those people. I didn't sometimes even convey those messages or that information to the person because I was too scared. Remember in the beginning we said, you know, the crazy stuff. So I was scared actually to say things, you know, by the fear of how people would have reacted. And just keep that in mind. I always say, if you receive a message from a spirit, let's say in the shopping center, why would you want to say that to the cashier, for example? Oh, I have your your father here. Why would that be correct? And it wouldn't, because she didn't ask for anything. So I believe a medium is also somebody who has to respectfully wait for that person to say, yes, I would like to have that reading now.
Yes, and this concerns not only mediums, but also empaths or highly sensitive people in general who need to learn how to set the boundaries, how to switch their reception on and off. And I'm sure that every empath, psychic, or medium has, at some point of their journey of development, come to this point where they needed to learn how to set up the boundaries, because otherwise it really, you would go crazy receiving all the messages from all the different channels. You can imagine this as if the radio is turned on but not set up to a specific channel. Imagine you are listening to this radio and it jumps on and off from all the different stations, and there are the mixed messages, and it would definitely make you annoyed, right?
I agree with what you said. It's indeed each one of us that is spiritually open will go through that phase where we receive all kinds of messages and all kinds of things, and have to learn how to set those boundaries. And of course, you know, I think that everyone, each and every one of us, has the ability to connect with the spirit world and to receive messages. And what I want to say is that people who lost somebody often get messages from their loved ones and disregard them. I was one of them. I disregarded many messages. And, you know, here I am. I call myself a medium. And when it's our loved ones, we actually have the feeling, no, this can't be right. It's maybe just in our mind and I'm making this up, because, you know, it can't be like that. It can't be as easy as that. And it is actually that easy. I know, Teri, that you have had certain ways how you opened up to the mediumship and how you got into this. How did it happen for you, actually?
Yes, for me, it was a different story. As I was already doing the psychic readings, and I know you were a therapist, right? The hypnotherapist. So I know that for you, even through the therapy, you were receiving the messages, you were connecting to the spirit world. So for me, it was similar. I had no intention of, let's say, I didn't say to myself, I'm going to become a medium, right? I didn't choose it. My soul did. And it was during the psychic readings when I suddenly started to feel the presence of the spirit world. And I felt that there were people who would like to say something to the sitter. So this is how I started to get more into it, and I found a mentor, and I started to develop my mediumship, because it is a discipline. It is a craft that you need to shape. It's like a gemstone that is found in a very rough and natural form. So you need to shape it, you need to work it out somehow to make it become this beautiful, shiny, colorful gemstone. So it's the same thing. And if you want, as a medium, to be very precise, to connect properly, and to receive the messages, and without the mind making its own story, you need to shape it.
I compare them actually to athletes, mediums. We have to train for several hours a day to be able to keep our energy to the highest vibrational level so that we can connect and blend with the spirit world and get the communication as clear as possible. And I love the analogy you did with the radio station. If you're not on the right radio station, your words and everything get jumbled. So you do need to practice a lot. And as I said, you know, I mean, sports, everybody can, you know, walk. Some people can run for a very brief time, but if you really want to become a performant athlete, you have to practice for several hours so that you can do the marathon, or you can run really fast, or whatever you do in that aspect. So yes, as I said before, you know, when I became a medium, it was through the loss of a loved one and starting to doubt that those messages that I got were actually coming from that loved one. And I needed somebody else to confirm that to me. Funny enough, you need somebody else to tell you that. And since I've started to athletically perform more in mediumship, it became, that communication became clearer. But I still need to say that communicating with your own loved ones is, I believe, the hardest thing to do.
Yes, I agree. And I believe that what you just described, it was part of your grieving process, right? This whole mediumship experience and how you disregarded the messages of your loved one.
Exactly. Just up until that loved one passed away, I looked at mediumship as something like an entertainment. I didn't want to get into it. I had a very flourishing therapy setup. So I practiced hypnotherapy and past life regression therapy, and didn't want to have anything to do with anything that was psychic or weird and crazy. So here I am talking about it, right? But when I received the message from a medium, from my loved one, it was extremely healing for me. And I thought, wow, if it helped me, then it can also help other people to find their closure in this experience by having a medium convey that message to you. And I think mediums are healers. So I changed my point of view and decided and even promised myself to help other people to get those messages. And I know you, Teri, you started off with the psychic readings, and you got those drop-ins from the spirit world who gave you those messages. And what made you exactly decide to go into the mediumship? At what point did you say, hey, now I have to develop?
I just felt it. I just felt the curiosity, and I also believe it is the soul's calling. Once your soul wants to open to this experience, you are just going to follow it, because I believe if you don't, it will start reappearing in your life. The opportunities will repeat itself until you actually listen to that calling. But for me, it wasn't that difficult, because I was always very curious about anything from the invisible world. From my teenage years, I was receiving messages, and let's say I had prophetic dreams. And then I started to explore more my psychic abilities, and I was developing them myself at first. But then if I knew that there were teachers who could help me, I would probably I could speed it up. I could speed up the process, even though sometimes your soul, I mean, not sometimes, always your soul knows when it's the right time for you to move forward with your abilities. But I always knew that I wanted to help people, and I want to share my gifts, and I want to use it, let's say, for the good of not only myself, because I feel really good in what I'm doing, but also for other people, and especially also helping other people opening up to their own gifts. Because when you hold your gifts off, when you don't listen, it can make you feel really miserable.
I agree with that. I know that for a fact. For me, it has always come back, and I always refused it. I always kept it very hidden. And I believe that life just gave me several slaps in my face to come back to it. And um, because I'm maybe with my 2 feet, not maybe, I know I am, with my 2 feet underground, maybe sometimes a little bit scientific. I want to explain a lot of the things. I was maybe the worst critic of mediums, which is really good. I'm even critical of my fellow mediums, because it's like, oh, well, that was an easy one, or this or that. And I'm very critical of myself, like many, many mediums are. So it is important to have 2 feet on the ground. And it is important to keep things, how should I put this, like on an evidence-based delivery of the messages. But not only, some of the messages cannot be really delivered just with evidence. Sometimes it's really an emotional, very emotional delivery of messages that people get. And those actually are the most healing ones. But the evidence is still important so that the people can recognize who it was that came through.
And you are right, Tatjana, because sometimes people are so much after the evidence because they need the proof. It's people who do not believe, they need to prove that there is life after death. But the proof actually comes through the ability of the medium to bring through the essence of the person. And I believe that if a medium connects really well with the person and spirit, you can feel as if the person and spirit is actually there with you. And this is the feeling that anyone who goes to a mediumship sitting should be looking for. Not that much for the evidence, but really, do I really feel that person? Does my heart respond to that person? Do I have emotions? Do I get emotional when listening to that medium conveying the message or bringing, let's say, the evidence, right?
Yeah. But it's also equally important to stay very open to the medium, because you can actually block the medium in giving you any messages from your loved ones. If you block them off, the medium will have to work harder. Not that I personally don't want to work harder, but sometimes with certain people, everything just flows and it becomes so easy. And I know that some people just look for the hardcore evidence and they just want to prove things right. And I mean, I have a few stories where I have tried on people, not necessarily on mediums, but where I have tried to block them because I just wanted to test them. And boy, I fell flat on my nose, because if you really want to do that, I think you should just best stay home. I don't know if you, Teri, had experiences with this, but I was the typical skeptical person who would basically sabotage my own session.
Yeah, Tatjana, because you love challenges. And as you said, you are not that woo-woo. I'm not the woo-woo, right? We are both people who stand with their feet on the ground. I was previously working in a project management and in corporate for many, many years, but my soul was still calling me to do this work. So yes, the healing, I always felt it's the most important part of not only mediumship, but as well psychic readings. And I remember when I was 17 years old, I once went to a healer. And at that time, of course, I wanted to hear, as many people do, will I get married? Will I have children? What's ahead of me? And she looked at my hands and she said, these hands can heal. And it's true that already at that time I was experimenting with energy work and I was starting looking deeper into psychic readings, but I was nowhere near thinking that the healing is the most important part. You know, I was the teenager that has their own interests. But it's true. And the healing, it's always something I want to bring to anyone who comes to me for a reading. And eventually, I really started to do hands on healing because I was reminded over and over again that this is what I need to do. And this is also a part where I came across mediumship, let's say, because when I'm working with a person with hands-on healing, and usually I was brought to people who were in terminal stages of cancer, so really a couple of weeks before they were passing on to the spirit world, I always noticed that there are other people from their family who have already crossed to the spirit world waiting for them. They were always presenting themselves to me. And that was such a special experience because basically you know that you are never alone. And so when your time comes, you are never going to be alone when you leave this world. And I think this is such a strong and enormous healing effect that mediumship work can have.
I think that's a beautiful story, what you just said, with healing and having these perceptions. So healing from also what you explained and what I experienced and what I also saw in other people can be on many levels. I'm not a hands-on healer. I don't do the hands-on healing, maybe because I'm not meant to. I'm more of the mind and the psychic in that aspect of the healing. But healing can come through different parts and different channels, because there is also people who do what do they call them? Intuitive healers, intuitive healers, I believe they're called. And you know, this psychic or mediumship part where we connect with the energy of another person or the energy with the spirit world, makes us perceive hidden information to our eyes, to our ears, but that is nevertheless present and here. And I believe this is a great honor for all of us to be able to tap into this and open it up and become aware of what awaits us on the other side. And it's beautiful that you said, and I want to come back to that, that the loved ones are actually waiting for us when we die. So we will never ever die, even if it is an accident, a sudden death. We will never be alone. And actually, we are never alone, right?
Yes, we are never alone, Tatjana, because the people in spirit are always here with us. As we say, they are just a thought away. And this is something I believe can be very healing, just the fact to remember. And for all of people who are currently or who have ever grieved, I think this can be very relieving because, you know, from your experience as well, that the grieving, it actually never stops. You cannot overcome grief, really. It has different stages, but you will always and forever miss the loved one. But it's such comforting to know that they are just a thought away.
Exactly. And they're always here without being physically here because we can see them with our eyes. And I like the analogy, which I often give is, you know, if you imagine a building with several levels and floors in that building and with many people living in there, and you're in one single room, you know that the people are around you, they're above you, they're underneath you, they're talking, they're cooking, they're speaking, they're fighting, whatever they do. You know that they're there, but you don't see them. And the spirit world is exactly the same. They're all around us. We don't see them, but they are here. And sometimes when you're actually quiet, you might hear them, but you don't hear them with your physical ears, or it's very rare that people do, but you hear them with your internal ears. You see them with your internal eyes. And this is where the idea of it's just a thought, they're just a thought away. So it's not something that most mediums physically see or hear. It is something that happens internally, and that's where the idea of the thought comes.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Although there are mediums who can see physically, that's true, but it's not all the mediums that can do this. And also sometimes, and maybe you have experienced that, they can, your loved ones remind of themselves maybe through a smell, right? Suddenly you can smell a perfume or this beautiful smell of the lemon pie that lady used to bake. And this is often what comes through the mediumship. And I believe not only the mediumship, but also daily life of people. And this is the way how their loved ones give the message that they are still present.
Yes. I had actually in one of my sessions, if I may just mention that, the smell of flowers come up during a reading that was distinctively, I could smell it. So it was with my physical nose and my client could smell it as well. And it was a perfume that was very cherished and loved by the deceased, by the spirit. And this is beautiful. It doesn't come through every time. That's the thing. I cannot promise that it will. And I don't know how much energy they need to produce such a smell so that both parties can smell it, which is extraordinary. I would love everyone in every reading to have an experience like this. If I could, I would. And well, you know, as a critic myself, this blows me, of course, completely away and challenges me. And I think, why can't I produce this for all the people? But it's not me who produces it. That's the thing. It's spirit who does.
Exactly. And it's the spirit who does part of the work, and it's the medium who does another part of the work. And I think it's just beautiful what you said about being blown away by your experiences. And it's the same for me, even though these experiences have become normal to me and they have always been normal to me. I'm always blown away. How is this possible? I feel like I'm in Hogwarts. I love Harry Potter. So it feels like a fairy tale, but it's just so real. And it's the beautiful magic and mystical world that is part of our, you know, daily dull life sometimes. Of course, there are so many beauties of earthly life, and that's why we came here as spiritual beings in our human body. We are here to experience the life on earth, but who says we need to forget about the invisible world?
That's true. And what is also important to mention from my perspective, and I know, Teri, you're on the same wavelength. If you go see a medium, it doesn't mean, as Teri said before, you know, the grief does actually never stop. You will always miss the person that you've lost. You will always have moments when you have tears running down your cheeks because you remember them. The intensity of the grief will lessen a bit, maybe even a lot, but it will lessen to a certain extent, even if in the beginning you think it's unimaginable and you will never ever get out of this because it's so painful. But with time, it's like waves hitting to the shore, and it's a very wild storm. You think you will never ever come out of it, and with time that storm will calm down, and there will still be waves. They will never ever stop, right? They will become more gentle. And going and seeking for a reading does not make the grief go away. It just gives you, if I say just, I say it with justice in that way, it will give you that little hope that your loved one was for that moment right here and there, but they're actually there all the time. It's building your confidence and your trust that they're always around you and that they love you very much. And I think that is really important to know, that mediumship is a part of the grieving process, but it will not help you, you know, to lay it off completely. That's impossible, unfortunately.
Yes, Tatjana, and thank you for sharing that, because I think that this is just a perfect explanation of what to expect from the mediumship when someone is grieving. And it is so important to know and not to have the expectations that cannot be fulfilled, because then the medium cannot fulfill your expectation, the spirit world cannot, and then maybe you will be walking away disappointed that it hasn't worked out and that you were hoping for more. But I believe that conveying the love of your loved one is already such a great gift that can very much ease your pain and grief.
Exactly. It is also maybe important to mention, so if you would like to have a certain loved one to come through, no medium can guarantee you that. And if they do, well, I don't know how they do it. You can certainly set an intent to have that loved one come through, but there is no guarantee. And I know myself how disappointing it can be when that loved one does not come through. But, you know, think of it as this, you know, you may have called, or you call people as they are in life on their cell phones, and they're not always available when you call them, and they will call you maybe later. And I don't know what to say, what they do and why they're not available. To that, I have no answer, but they will come when the time is right.
And also, I think it's connected to what you already said, Tatjana, that maybe you may not be the right medium for them, right? Because someone who was shy and didn't like to talk during their lifetime, they are not suddenly going to change and choose a medium who is on a completely different energy level, right? They will choose someone who has maybe similar qualities as they had when they were alive. This is just a very plain explanation how to, this is just a very plain example how to explain this phenomenon, let's say.
Yes, and sometimes you will have a medium that will tell you something about your loved one that you don't know. You can't remember. You might even say, no, never ever have you seen them with the XYZ. And later on you go home and you find out through different ways and paths that whatever the medium said was correct. Now, this I call one of the best evidences you can have, because no way you could have thought about this as a client and the medium picking it up psychically in some way or another. So be also open to that certain things you don't know. We have so many things we experiences in our lifetime that your partner, or you might not even know as a parent about your children. So be prepared to receive information about your loved one that you have never known, but that you might find out about later on.
Yes, and it is also the matter of the medium trusting the spirit world, because it happens that the sitter doesn't recognize the information, but the good medium will stick to the information from the spirit world because they know the best, and they often bring evidence that is just mind blowing. But even the sitter can say no to it and only later come with an explanation. Wow, this was actually true, I actually remembered, or someone else told me this about the person in spirit that then turned out to be true. So stay open with your mind when you come for a psychic or even mediumship reading, because they know.
Exactly, and they know exactly what they need to tell you, what you need to hear in that at that moment. And I will take this opportunity to tell you, so if you want to have a reading with Teri or myself, you can go to our website, soulmystics.me, and make an appointment with either one of us, to whomever you feel attracted to, in whatever way, form, or shape. And also, we are accompanying people who would like to open their own abilities, who know, maybe who are empaths, people who are sensitives, who had some experiences, maybe some people who never ever had experiences, critics like me. Oh boy, you know, do I love challenges? So there we go. People who just want to experience and explore this part of themselves.
Yes, Tatjana, and thank you for mentioning that. We are here for you. And also, I want you to know that if you are watching us, I know that it is your soul who brought you there to watch this information. And even though you might not use the information that you heard today right now, maybe in the future it will come back to you and your soul will keep being curious, and then it will be the right time for you to contact us or any other mediums. It really depends on you. Yes, Tatjana, thank you for mentioning that. And I also know that if you are watching us right now, it's your soul who brought you there. And it's your soul curiosity about this topic. And it's maybe going to be your path in the future of becoming a medium or intuitive or a psychic reader or healer. And right now, it's the time on the planet when so many people are opening to their gifts and want to be the ones who are helping others to open up to their soul gifts. And it's such a beautiful time and cooperation. And that's why we are here, because we are very encouraging to anyone who feels it's their journey. So keep watching us. We will bring other interesting topics of mediumship, psychic, intuitive work in the next episodes. And feel free to contact us on the email or check our website, soulmystics.me, as Tatjana said. So for now, we hope you enjoyed our first episode, and feel free also to drop us any themes or topics you would like to talk about.
Thank you, Teri, for all this information. So this draws to an end. We will say goodbye for now and hope to see you in our next Soul Chat.
Take care.
Bye-bye.